Hello, I'm Bryony and I work with people who are working for a better world to open up their awareness so that space is created for wiser choice. From there, we have more power, aliveness, endurance, courage, better relationships, improved well-being. We have more agency over ourselves and we have more fun and joy in life. It's about learning to be responsive to our needs, responsive to ourselves, and to develop a more anchored sense of self. And my framework I work with is root deep, stand strong, and branch out, because we are surrounded by a world of systems that have evolved over millennia. And I believe that working with our systems is a much wiser way than jarring against us. And it's the same with life. Here we're thinking about how to learn from experiences you'd rather not have. So working with those experiences rather than jarring against it uses a lot less energy, and it plays into giving us much more agency and much more possibility for the life we create for ourselves and the relationship we have with ourselves. So we're going to be thinking about the investment of ourselves, when usually the experiences that we have in life that we'd rather not have also include us having invested ourselves into something. We're going to think about what those experiences can feel like, because it's really important to be aware. As I said, I work with people to open up awareness so that we have more choice, so that we're more empowered. We're going to think about how you want to show up in life, because making that choice before and being proactive about it pays into how we actually experience those things that come up in life, that come along our path. And being able to, we're going to think as well about choosing the stories you want to live by and believe in those situations. And all that work plays into then how do we learn? What do we take away from those experiences? And this is all part of developing our resilience. And the word resilience gets a bit of a bad rap and it doesn't get used in a particularly healthy way in some contexts or by some people. For example, I hear people of being just told to be more resilient at work, which is a really unkind and unhelpful way of looking at it. So the word resili comes from the Latin, and the root of it is about the ability to spring back, but it's in relationship to plants' ability to adapt themselves. So again, coming back to my root deep, stand strong, and branch out, that adapting to the environment and the season we're in and growing from there. So resilience is about our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, and our mental health is the state of our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. So it's about being able to develop the capacity to be flexible within our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, so that whatever experiences come along our way that we don't really want to experience, we actually emerge with more learning, more agency, more growth, wiser, and with our brain, our mind, and our whole system knowing that we are capable of finding our way through things and we still have choice. So thinking about the investment of ourselves, investing ourselves into things in life, and these experiences, it could be into relationships with people, it could be into a project, it could be into a job application or a promotion application. It's a really vulnerable thing to put ourselves forward in life. And quite often when we experience being vulnerable in that way, our brain can pop up with questions like, well, am I enough? So that in itself, being vulnerable, is a challenging place to be in life. The other thing is, when we are investing ourselves, there is uncertainty. We don't know if this is going to play out in the way that we want it to. And our brains do not like uncertainty. So all of these things, we need to give ourselves grace and recognize being vulnerable is difficult and challenging. Living with uncertainty is challenging. And of course, life is full of uncertainty. It's the only thing that is certain. It doesn't make it easy. And our brains don't know how long that uncertainty is around for. If we're putting in a promotion or a job application, living with that uncertainty for a while is a really difficult thing. And then there's also stresses and pressures which might come internally, expectation bars that we put way up here for ourselves that might not be manageable, or they might have come from family or workplaces or supervisors, tutors. They can also be financial. So there could be pressures to succeed, but there can also be financial pressures. Whether budget is really tight or not, we can still feel the strain of financial pressure, whatever our financial circumstance. So there's all kinds of stresses and pressures in life that we all experience. And then experiencing all of those things as part of investing ourselves into life, into possibilities, into our next chapter or the next chapter we hope for, there's the impact of the emotional labor of doing that and the energetic labor of doing that. It's tiring. So we need to think about how we look after ourselves within that. So we're thinking about starting with raising awareness, because as I said, my principle for working is awareness, choice, power. We start with opening up awareness so that we have choice. So I've got some questions for you. If we think about, for example, that dreaded phrase of hearing or reading, "Thank you for your application, but." This could be an application for a job, it could be an application for a course, it could be an application for a process, a funding bid, it could be any kind of thing. And you might be thinking about a different experience in life or a different moment, and that's absolutely fine. It really doesn't matter. These questions can apply to any of it. But just thinking about, in that moment of reading or hearing that, what does it feel like? What goes through your head? What do you believe? And that could be beliefs about yourself, about another person involved in this situation or people, or it could be beliefs about circumstance and situation. What sensation or sensations go through your body when you hear that? For me, thinking about "thank you for your application, but," there's almost a feeling like here, and an energy drop. And then when you think about the responses to those questions, and then what happens next. So for some people, that will be retreating. "Oh, well, I'm not good enough. I shouldn't try again." Other people are like, "Nope, I'm doing it again." Other people might go to anger. There's a whole variety of different responses. So this is about you understanding yourself better and your responses better, because then you will have more agency. So again, these are the questions that you can reflect on now to help understand yourself more now, but you could also come back to in life whenever an experience comes up that you'd rather not have. So why am I asking you to do all this? We're thinking here about the importance of processing. And okay, this is absolutely part of the awareness work. But by processing, this is naming, noticing this is how I feel, this is what's happened in my body as I've read that email or heard that thing from that person. Notice how I've reacted, how I'm responding. Name it. This is how I feel. This is the belief that's popped up. And giving ourselves time to be with that and give it space to process. Because by processing it, it allows you to be in choice. The cost of not processing it is that it will run you. When we don't process our emotional responses, they become like the head of the board table in our being, in our mind, and they start running the show. They start being the decision maker. So an invitation to reflect on, what do you need to shift within you to become more willing to be with and process your emotional responses in life. This is not about dwelling in them or retreating from life and just being with emotions. This is about consciously noticing them, letting them have space, and then choosing how you want to go forward. This is about emotional intelligence. And the more emotionally agile we are in life, the more empowered we are, the more in choice we are. So I'm going to invite you into a short visualization to visualize your future self. You at a point in the future that you can relate to and that you're aiming for. So it might be getting a particular job. It might be a certain stage in your career progression. It could be any number of things. Getting into a point of owning a home or having a family in the way that you hope to. Some people find visualization easier than others. That's fine. I'm going to ask you all to put your expectation bars down on the floor and just be curious. So put anything down that you're holding. You can stand up if you'd like to. When we stand up, we engage in things in a different way. But if you're sitting, that's absolutely fine. So just negotiate with your body to find as much openness and ease. Perhaps a gentle sense of empowerment as well. Closing your eyes, taking a breath in, and as you breathe out, I'm going to invite you to imagine yourself in the future at this point that you're thinking of, in aliveness, fulfilled, and having the impact you want. Notice any sights, sounds, colours, sensations that you're feeling or noticing, or things that are going on around you. How are you holding yourself? How are you holding your body? How are you being? How are you communicating? How is your sense of yourself? What's important to you here? And what is the essence of your contribution to the world? Notice anything you need to notice here. And then taking a breath in and opening your eyes. Whatever came up for you or didn't come up for you, that is absolutely fine. Because this is all about trying in life. So the purpose of this isn't about that thing will definitely unfold in the way that you want, because, well, this video is all about the fact that doesn't always happen. It's about connecting with whatever happens in life, whatever comes your way or doesn't, knowing and connecting with how you want to show up in life, being anchored by what is most important to you, and being aware of what is not for compromising in you. So knowing the essence of what you're living for is really key. I know that I want to contribute to a better world, and that has shown up in many different types of work. And I really support others who are doing that now in different ways. I also know that my key thing that I am aiming for is really deep smile lines in old age. And once I realized that, I was so much better able to flex and respond when things came up in life that I really didn't want to have to experience. That wasn't how I had wanted it to play out. Because I'm still aiming for that same outcome. I can, things that come my way or the way I respond, I can measure it against that. So it's about anchoring ourselves in who we are growing to be, whatever comes our way or doesn't. Deciding who and how you want to be and connecting with the essence of the contribution you want to have to this world, the impact you want to have, what you want to be fulfilled by, what your purpose is. And those things can change, they evolve, that's fine. It's about building a stronger sense of self. And when we have a really strong sense of self, that is more powerful than any rejection we might experience in life. So there is a choice here. Do you choose to let external factors define you, or do you choose to define yourself? It is a choice of where you are putting your power. So I'm going to talk you through a model here. You may have heard of it. It's called the sphere of control, and I've got another video about it. But the sphere of control is about us having a space and being aware of the space where we can control things. Within my sphere of control, I can control the way I show up in life, my actions, my thoughts and beliefs. That can be tricky work, but it is, it's possible. And I'm talking here as long as in terms of mental health. Mental ill health can impact that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a place where we are well enough to be able to access that. I can choose, I have control about how I show up in relationships. I have control over my behaviors. Basically, I have control over me. Outside of that space, I have some influence, perhaps, but I don't have any control. And outside of that space of control is the past. The past is a key one. Other people and other people's decisions, other people's behaviors. When I spend time and energy outside of my sphere of control, putting energy into the past, different decisions I could have made, the way things could have happened differently, other people's choices, have they given me this funding or not? Did I get that promotion, that job or not? When I spend time and energy in that, I'm in a reactive space. So this is where I get frustrated, anxious, depressed, or angry, those kind of feelings. My sphere of control starts shrinking because I'm spending time outside of it on things that I just can't control. When I anchor myself, root myself in my sphere of control, this is a responsive space. I have responsibility, literally the ability to respond. I get to choose. Whatever life brings at me, I get to choose how I respond. So really, it's a sphere of empowerment. It's a power space. So when, get a job application rejection, or get someone, dumps you, ends a relationship, I can't control that decision has been made. It's not easy, and there may well be a whole load of processing to happen. But if I stay here in my sphere of control or empowerment, I get to give myself space to process that. And then I get to, pre all that, I've had choice over the efforts I've put in. If I know that I've done all I can to make that thing work out in life, then that's great. I showed up in life in the way that I wanted to, that I hoped to. And now, on response to this decision that's come at me, I now get to learn, what do I want to do with this? And now, what is in my control? So basically, the outcome, we put ourselves forward in life, the vulnerability, investment of ourselves, uncertainty, we don't know if it's going to work. How I show up in that bit is in my control. The outcome of it is outside of my control. So before that experience, have I done all I can to show up in alignment with myself? Because the magic here is about detaching your worth from outcomes in life. Brené Brown talks about our willingness, when she talks about vulnerability, she talks about our willingness to do something when there are no guarantees. And people who live by that and choose to believe they are good enough, whatever the outcome, live more fulfilled lives. So we get to choose what story we are going to believe. So what story do you want to live by when you are rejected in life? Or when you have an experience in life that you would rather not have? And what story do you want to live by when you are accepted in life? And both of these are true, because whether we're rejected or accepted, whether we have experienced an outcome in life that we'd rather not have, or have an outcome in life we really wanted, it still comes back to an anchored and strong sense of self. I am happy with who I am and how I'm showing up in life, and I am constantly learning. In her book, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, Susan Jeffers wrote, "You are not responsible for your experiences in life, but you are responsible for your experiences of life." Which really relates to that sphere of control or empowerment. And this comes to the core of, so how do you want to learn from these things? Building that awareness, choice, power. Because when we have awareness, we have space to choose, and then we're empowered. We build our sense of agency, our autonomy, and we have much more control about our experience of life. So focusing on what we can own and not focusing on what's outside of our control. Processing our responses to that, absolutely. Choosing your beliefs about yourself, choosing how you see life. Is it a friendly space or not? And focusing on reflection versus self-criticism. So reflection, by reflecting on situations, how I showed up, perhaps I didn't show up. Did I do all I could? Okay, there's something to learn there. Or I could go to self-criticism. Oh, I should have said that thing. I didn't do that. Perhaps I didn't spend enough time on it. My energy is really different when I say those things. So there's a question here of, how do you know the difference between when you're reflecting and when you're self-criticizing? So reflection for me is a much more expansive space. It's curious. I get to learn. I am in control here. And my energy feels quite expansive, but it also can lift quite a lot. Self-criticism space, my shoulders drop, my energy shifts downwards. I lose control. My control shrinks and my empowerment shrinks, because by self-criticizing, I'm telling my whole system, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy. So thinking about reflection, are you reflecting or are you self-criticizing in that learning, in response to that experience you'd rather not have? And curiosity, I've mentioned this, I see curiosity like a superpower. When we're curious, like toddlers learning the world, we just learn so much. So thinking about what you want to take away from the experience. And if it's really tricky and really challenging, for a film reference, what's the Jedi training here? What what can you really get out of this? You might have to really look for where the learning is. Sometimes we do. But we can put some work into that, or we can sit in curiosity. And I wonder, and it might be 10 years down the line that we know what that learning was. And then the last thing I'm going to come to is looking at inspiration. And like reflection, being very different from self-criticism, inspiration from others is very, very different from comparing ourselves to others. So just to name a few people who have had experiences they did not want in life, and then what else has happened for them. So Oprah Winfrey was fired from her first job in TV. And of course now she runs a media empire and is a billionaire. Steven Spielberg was rejected from film school 3 times. And he struggled with studying due to being dyslexic. And now he's considered one of the best directors of all time and has many awards. Elvis Presley, after his first gig, was told that he wasn't going anywhere and he should go back to driving a truck. And Tina Turner, who faced domestic abuse from her music partner and life partner, Ike Turner, earlier in her years, earlier in her career. And we know the impact of domestic abuse on people and self-worth being not good enough and the trauma as well. She said, there are always going to be external situations and forces I cannot change or control. But what I can control is how I respond to these circumstances. Another important lesson I've learned is that we can find value in everything if we look close enough, even in adversity. It's what we make of our challenges, how we use them to shape ourselves and our futures, that ultimately determines our success and happiness. So please remember, whatever you face in life, you have the ability to access agency in response to it. You can grow from it, and you can choose the experience you have of it and how you step forward. And of course, if you are in a situation in life and you're working for a better world, you're having an experience you'd rather not have or don't know how to find your way through it, please contact me. I would love to hear from you.